I love Rayearth. That is not an understatement. The anime version is probably one of my favorite series of all time. I've got the manga compilations, the various soundtracks, that awesome bright red Game Gear that never gets touched out of fear of damaging it. My guy, I've literally got the animation cells hanging in my workspace. I love Rayearth. This game is trash. Normally, if this were any other terrible game, we would not even touch it, let alone waste time on a video. Even games we've made fun of, like Evil Zone, was all tongue-in-cheek. They are guilty pleasure games that I actually enjoy playing and have a lot of nostalgia for, despite them being terrible. This is not that case. Rayearth on Saturn is not only barely a game that is absolute torture to play, but this is another OVA fanfic that ruins the themes of the story, randomly kills off beloved characters for shock value, then gives up near the finish line, fumbling the iconic ending. Worst of all, if this were someone's first exposure to the series, there is a huge chance they may never give the anime or manga itself a chance, missing out on what is an amazing story. And that is the real reason we are here. That, and I also want to absolutely shit on game scalpers and speculative buyers, but mostly because I feel this series is very, very unfairly represented by this title and its obnoxious price tag, which has not only overshadowed the series as a whole, but the many enjoyable Rayearth games that do exist. Elephant in the room. If the game's price is so unreasonable, how did I get a copy? Well, friends, growing up broke, we didn't have Sega Saturn money, so grabbed one up the second I had a real job, and the very first game with it was a used copy of Rayearth. The grand total for the system and the game at the time? $80. I'll let you take that one in for a second. Moving on. For those not in the know, the irony in Rayearth being my first Saturn game is that the price tag mostly stems from it being the last Saturn game of the Western run. Which is more ironic when you realize it was originally meant to be an early release that got stuck in translation hell for 3 years. A lot of people unfairly blame working designs for this game being terrible, and yes, they did F up the difficulty and do their classic terrible translation. But they also had to rebuild the entire game because it was just busted, so they went through a legal battle, all kinds of hell, just to make this happen, so put some respect on their name. Most of you would have never gotten to play classics like Lunar if not for them, and the Japanese version plays like trash too.
Speaking of trash...
Nope, shut it down, you're not in this one. You said Rayearth is for little girls and then called me a name I can't say on YouTube.
Whatever, dork, I'm getting drunk then.
Hey, what happened to your arm?
Fuck you, you know what happened.
To Amy's point, Rayearth at first glance can come across a tiny bit girly, which is by design. It's like a coming-of-age story, just more fantastical, and that cute, magical girl front can be a huge turnoff to many. Funny enough, I could never get my female friends to watch it, but when it came to the fellas, complete opposite. Don't let the proper enunciation fool you. My male friend group could easily be confused for the cast of San Andreas, and despite what you might think based on stereotypes, these thuggish, ruggish, players loved that shit. And for good reason. These girls go hard. The series gets pretty violent and adult near the end. Hikaru, Umi, and Fu are straight gangsta, but you have to be willing to let the story get there. So let's go, like everyone's favorite Nintendo mascot, Linkio. Because this one is a Zelda clone, made by people that did not watch our video breaking down why the game worked. They should have been subscribed, regardless of the time travel implications. It's called Link to the Past, figure it out. This game certainly does get the controls right. The characters respond well with 8-way movement and a melee attack you can charge, along with a jump button for somewhat questionable platforming. And each of the girls has 3 magic attacks that also work in place of items when it comes to the handful of puzzles you'll encounter. Credit where it is due, they nailed this part, and there actually are moments where the gameplay is enjoyable. But, as you will see, those moments are very few and far between, hidden in what really feels like an OVA visual novel that is mostly padding. We open up with Hikaru arriving at the iconic landmark Tokyo Tower, where several 8th grade classes are having simultaneous field trips. Hikaru is a bit of a late bloomer. You have to imagine someone who is about to enter high school, who still feels like a child compared to everyone around them, and they will soon be put through trials and ordeals that would easily break an adult. Even when she first meets her soon-to-be best friends, she's a bit intimidated, with Umi being taller and more mature-looking, and Fu being more well-mannered and educated than her. Even worse, she kinda messed up and somehow let her dog follow her, which implies that he knows how to use the elevator. So now he's just running around like dogs do. And so Hikaru's 2 new acquaintances lend her a hand in catching him. The 3 manage to nab the pup, but then, out of nowhere, a flash of light fills the observation deck, along with a vision of Princess Amarud, pleading with the 3 girls to come save her world before they are quickly whisked away, landing on a gigantic fish. In the anime version. They didn't put him in the game, which immediately lowers the score by at least 20%. In this version, you just end up on a cliff, where you are introduced to Clef. This guy is kinda cool, almost like the DM of the story. Incredibly powerful mage who will be of absolutely no help to you this entire game. But he is here to set up the quest and give us some sweet starting gear. As he will exposit in every variation, this is the land of Sephiroth, and Princess Emerald acts as the pillar, keeping the world in balance through her will. It's a never-ending story situation, except she is both the Moon Child as well as Sebastian at the same time. Back at the Hall of Doom, villains are plotting villainous things. Get used to this shot, cause the game is going to reuse it an inexcusable amount of times. Zagato, or Zagat in this version, which somehow sounds even sillier, is quote-unquote holding Emerald hostage. Put a sticky note on that one. Aware of our girl's presence, he assembles his crew to pick who he will send after them, which, like always, would probably go a lot better if you just sent everyone to jump them at once. Regardless, this cast can vary a bit depending on which version of the story you're looking at, and this game seems to follow pretty closely to the anime. It can also be very random with who gets killed and who gets redeemed, so while I will say spoilers as always, many of the game's events are much different than the anime and manga. The one consistency you usually see is Alcyone being the first major threat sent after the girls, and the one who will pester them on and off throughout the story. For the most part, all of the bad guys are evil sorcerer types, so it's the personalities that set them apart, with Alcyone being obsessively in love with the Chad villain, who probably would one-night her, but is clearly focused on the princess. Back at the cliff with Clef, he summons a Griff for us to escape on as Alcyone arrives riding her ponyta. He quickly tells the girls to meet up with Precia to the east in order to obtain the weapons we need, before facing off with his former student who instantly turns him to stone, making the guy pretty damn useless. This of course allows Alcyone to catch back up with us, so now we have nowhere to go and no choice but to fight, and so we prepare to take on the Dark Sorceress, and FMV. Hikaru unlocks her fire magic and fries the bitch, without us even needing to touch the controller, cause why would we want to actually play the game? The 3 land right outside Precia's workshop, where just like in other variants they meet up with Makona, the semi-mascot of the series, who some of you may recognize from other anime that they and their variants appeared in. This part stays pretty true to the events of the anime. The girls think Makona is Precia, Makona catches them, the real Precia shows up, talks about executing the 3 of them, but once she realizes who they really are, she offers to help them with her blacksmithing skills. But first she will need the rare and legendary metal Escudo in order to forge them, so she lends us some temporary equipment and we are finally able to proceed into our first mission. 30 minutes in. I'm only doing the point-to-point just to point out how much of an inverse this entire game is to the title it was trying to rip off. If this were Link to the Past, we would have already gotten past the tutorial mission, saved the princess, hit the town, and have gotten at least halfway through the first dungeon by this point. And there is no skipping any of this if you've already seen it. You have to sit through multiple FMVs and fully voiced cutscenes that, while not terrible for a 90s anime game, drag on forever. And even worse, take up a significant chunk of the runtime. The dungeons themselves, while gorgeous at times, all suffer from terrible random design. A lot of the areas are just gigantic, sprawling pseudo-mazes that feel like the assets were haphazardly thrown into a big box, with no real thought going into directing the player. More like this was the test build, and they never went back and actually did any level design past that. You add in working designs, doubling and tripling the enemy HP count while lowering the drop rate, and you've got a game where I'm going to spend most of my time just running past the enemies. There is no leveling up in this game, and nothing to really buy, so why would you fight anyone? You can just walk by every single enemy like this is Silent Hill 2. About halfway in, you get stopped by what looks like a boss encounter, but instead of playing the game, we are rescued by Fario. Now, Fario's cool, in the show, but like most side characters, he doesn't really do anything significant here. He'll flirt with Fu a little, offer to be our escort, she pretends she doesn't like him, as scripted. All that stuff's supposed to be here, so at least they got that right. But about 5 seconds later, Alcyon shows up again, kicks his ass immediately, so again, you're thinking, boss fight, let's do this. But now Umi gets an FMV as well, where she automatically wins. Are you noticing a trend? Thankfully they didn't skip the next part, because it's just a tiny bit significant to the themes of the story. In order to gain the medal for their weapons, the 3 girls must pass a trial via a terrible boss battle. A lot can get lost in the translation, so to keep things simple, Umi must battle her parents to break from her wish to return home, learning to be less selfish and to put saving this world above her own desires to be safe. Fu, on the other hand, is too analytical. She needs to get out of her own head, admit she's not always right, and learn to trust her feelings occasionally, and also to stop thinking and start doing. And Hikaru faces the cruelest life lesson, facing off against her own pet Flash. While she is already the bravest of the 3, willing to risk her own life, she is still afraid to cause pain and suffering to others, and must harden her heart to understand that sometimes peace can only come through force.
Ah, so what you're saying is that if someone wants to protect their culture and homeland, it may take committing acts of mass violence and cruelty the world has never seen before. I can get down with that.
Go to your room. That was just a test, and the girls passed it, gaining the legendary Escudo and taking it back to Precia so she can get back to work on those weapons. Now, this one will be a real spoiler, for those of you who might actually read the manga, so 3, 2, 1, Precia fucking dies. Most of the time. Usually they get attacked right after the weapons are complete, and she sacrifices herself so that the girls can escape. In other variations, she actually works herself to the point of collapsing as she finishes the girls' weapons, literally putting her life into them. Either way, it's another great story beat that is meant to convey the realities of growing up, losing people you care about, or sacrifices others will make in order to protect you, and repaying them by not wasting it. All of that, real good. Love it. In this version, she lives, 'cause hugs and rainbows, I don't know. Fuck you, that's why. Either way, we are now free to venture off into what is the main quest, and they keep it very simple. Revive each of the girls' machines, and then go save the princess. You could loosely compare their journey in the anime to the first season of Dragon Ball. We have a small party of newly made friends on a journey to collect their McMuffins. They run into wacky hijinks when they come across new villages and characters, and some of the foes they face along the way become long-term allies. Good times. Again, the story is a 10 out of 10. There's a reason it still gets remakes even to this day. All of the problems are solely in this game's execution. I mean, come on guy. Super Famicom got it right. And yes, I did waste money on a reproduction cartridge. So first off, some positives. The new vocals on the theme song sound great. I love Hikaru, but her singing in the English dub sounds like a chipmunk. The Sega Saturn version is the superior English rendition. The pixel art, especially around town, is some of the best you will see from this era. And this is a very short game where you never really have any need to look around, so a lot more effort was put into this than justified, sadly. There's even these really nice crossfades used in the multi-layer buildings that I want to try and figure out for my own projects. Another cool thing is that similar to a lot of anime-based games from this era, most of the cutscenes are new and made just for this rendition, while staying true to the art style from the first run of the show. Even if I hate on the game for being mostly cutscene, these are cool, and at the time, people were way more accepting of forced FMVs. Though I think the best thing the game did right was to have Fu stick with the bow and arrow the entire time, just to make combat a bit more dynamic. In story, all three knights use a sword. Hikaru is a member of the Kendo Club, so she gets a slashy weapon. Umi is a competitive fencer, so she gets the Poke Sword. But with Fu it's a little bit different. She is a member of the Archery Club, so like the other two, she starts out with a bow, but after she has her self-reflection moment, the weapon molded from her heart is a gigantic two-handed claymore that would make Guts envious. It's fucking awesome, but for sake of gameplay, it is admittedly for the best that they had her stick with ranged attacks, even if it makes all encounters completely pointless the second she upgrades her homing shot.
Okay, guy, you've been sucking this game off for the past 5 minutes. I thought you said it sucked. But all I'm seeing is something that's mediocre to not that great at best. So either you grow some balls and hit me with some real negatives, or I'm gonna go do something else.
That's a little rude, but alright. You guys want the harsh truth? Let's load on in and get to it.
Are you gonna do anything or play the
Hold on, it's almost there.
Okay, we get the fucking joke. Just move on.
The load times. They are pretty terrible. Let me tell you about it. Is it because Saturn and PlayStation games are starting to degrade as we speak, meaning that even if you do own a copy of this game, it is most likely worthless? I don't know, man. I'm running an ISO. But if it does turn out at some point my copy no longer functions, I'll break it on camera for some extra views. Or we can just donate it to charity or something.
Oh, come on. Don't be a pussy. I've got a hammer right here.
Neat. Anyway, loading screens in between areas in this game are abysmal. Probably the worst I've seen on this system, and for some reason they decided to give you a very convenient exit town button that you will most certainly hit by accident at least 4 to 5 times during your run. This will of course force you back out onto the world map before you load right back into town in order to do whatever it was you got interrupted from 5 minutes ago. On top of that, this game is like an early NES title when it comes to direction, which is even more ridiculous when you already know the story inside and out, but still can't figure out where to go without talking to every single person in town, or finding the random event trigger needed to proceed. And I'm pretty sure that part is on purpose, cause this game is incredibly short. You can easily knock this game out in 8 hours, which sounds like a lot, except you factor in all of the unskippable voiced dialogue, and all of the wasted time running back and forth with NPCs, you really end up with around 4+ hours of a game. Even then, there's 1 or 2 moments where you'll be forced to go halfway into a dungeon. You can't move forward, so you end up backtracking, talking to an NPC, and then you go back to the dungeon again with the new skill you've acquired that allows you to move forward. It's all wasted time to pad out what really feels like is an unfinished product. There's even an item you can unlock that allows you to exit dungeons after completion, to avoid all of that backtracking, which means they made a conscious decision to force the player to do that under normal circumstances. You unlock these special key items by trading in colored jewel sets at the Rainbow Junction. Collecting them isn't the problem, half of them you can't miss, but the rewards are not even worth the extra effort. You find the first 7, and you unlock a random drawing of Persia upset over wetting her bed, I think?
That's not what happened.
What? Oh, that's gross. You can unlock some squeaky shoes that will make fart noises when you walk, and that previously mentioned item that will let you quick escape the 1 dungeon left before you can get it. It's all incredibly stupid, especially the final unlock being the sound test. It cannot be understated how many anime and game soundtracks were overprinted around this time. I used to go into Starland just to grab one or two, and they would hand me a box and say, take it and leave. At the end of the day, the worst sin this game commits is in how it handles death and redemption, and I'll have to be vague in order to avoid spoilers since again, this is very much a series worth seeing on your own. However, Rayearth has always been great at portraying mature situations to an audience that is only just getting to an age where they can fully understand the concepts it's throwing at them. It doesn't handhold, it treats them with respect, which is why an adult can enjoy it too. But this game removes all of that. Almost all of the characters are treated like they are disposable. Good or evil, the friendships and bonds are barely surface level. Villains who turn ally are just killed off with zero fanfare, while shipped characters will instantly fall in love at first eye contact, and then forget about it just as fast. But the thing that makes me want to actually break this game in half mid-recording is the removal of the final line from the ending. Arguably the most important line of dialogue in the entire fucking story. Without it, there is no ending. It invalidates the entire journey the trio just went on, which is just the icing on top of the shit sundae of a game that was already miserable to play through in the first place.
I get you, man. All that time and effort put into something you really care about, and in the end you just wind up in the same place. All that progress and growth, all for nothing. It's not fair.
You really are a fucking asshole. Alright, real talk. This is probably far from our best video. I hate doing the angry game review gimmick, it's just really fucking corny. But at the same time, I cannot recall ever running across a review for Rayearth, the series, let alone the game, as if it just does not exist. It could mostly come from the lack of interest, especially in the West where Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor were able to lock in the audience before the series got a chance. And as much as I hate this game, we can't really blame it, since so few people have probably played it in the first place. So why the hell even bring it up? Well, a big part of this channel is trying to give the spotlight to lost or forgotten gems, and in a way, I'm really trying to point you all towards this show. Don't let the Magic Girl facade fool you. This one sits snug right in between Season 1 Slayers and Dragon Ball, in terms of telling a simple yet compelling story following the hero's journey. And best of all, unlike most anime, it's short, only 2 arcs, and the first one is really the only part that matters, with part 2 feeling more like an epilogue. And very, very soon we will be getting a remake coming to Netflix, which, yes, red flags all around, but I am still gonna give it a chance since it's meant to follow the manga much closer, which would actually make it much different from what we already have just due to the cast size and a few other minor details. Either way, I refuse to pay for that service just to see one show, but we'll find a way. And if you just so happen to already have a subscription, they recently added the original runs to get everyone prepped. You can literally watch it right now. So I will catch you later.
Hey, fuckhead, we're not thank you to everyone who actually stuck around, unlike the host. Thank you to the Adopt people, and I'm gonna go chase this guy down and kick the shit out of him.